I am personally in awe of how the universe works. I would say that 99.9% of my guests that I share on this podcast, I also need to hear and access the wisdom they bring forth. And this week's guest is no different. Growing up, I've had a multitude of issues with my throat, and I've had some major neck things that went on during my lifetime. And even to this day, both of those areas occasionally still bother me. So, my guest this week is someone who has also had a lifetime filled with adversities around the neck and throat area. And she is here to share how to heal your neck issues and let your throat chakra shine. Her name is Cheryl Stelte. And over the last 27 years, she has studied, practiced, and taught various forms of meditation, spiritual practices, and energy healing modalities. Her spiritual journey and her love of the forests, mountains, and oceans drew Cheryl to shamanism, where she trained through the Foundation for Shamanic Studies and with other shamanic teachers. She has since developed Heart Centered Shamanism. Today, she's a spiritual coach, healer, speaker, two-time author, and CEO of Star of Divine Light Institute. She's a healing and empowerment expert and helps coaches and entrepreneurs attract their best clients through her Client Magnet Energy program. As a founder of Azarius Energy Healing, she helps people who believe they are healers become the online energy healers they were born to be. Through her Shining Throat Chakra program, people with throat chakra issues break through their blocks to speak their truth and shine their light with purpose. Cheryl is deeply committed to doing all she can to help others become empowered to shine their unique light and live their divine purpose. So I'm so excited to welcome you here today, Cheryl, and talking about the neck and throat chakra, which for myself is a huge part of, it's been a huge part of my life and things that I've really had to work on and delve into and figure out. So I want to start this conversation with why, out of all the body parts in our body, which we have a lot of different aspects to our body, is that the part that you focused on in what you're doing right now?
Why did I focus on the throat chakra? What a great. Uh, I focused on it because I noticed that in almost all the clients that came to me, they all had throat chakra issues. They did not come to me saying, I have throat chakra issues. But through our work together, I discovered big throat chakra issues that were really getting in the way. And looking at myself, I worked on my throat chakra for years. And I realized, wow, a lot of our journey, the throat chakra is about expressing our truth, speaking our truth, being seen and heard. But the deepest part of it is really expressing all that we truly are and why we are here, at a deep level. And that's tough business. That's not the easiest thing to do. And so I could see through my own journey how that's the path I was on. And so what happens is when you say throat chakra and people start to think, oh, how well do I express my truth? Do I feel seen and heard and that sort of thing? Then they can start to look at themselves. It doesn't mean the answer is in the throat chakra. We really have to work
Mm-hmm.
with lower chakras, especially the root chakra. But it was finding that in my own journey of working on that for so many years and directly for such a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting because for myself, I look back at my life and like when I was, I think 11 or 12, I actually had a neck injury, a really horrific whiplash where I'm grateful at that time. My mom believed in chiropractic care. This was probably, I guess, the late 70s. And so she took me to a chiropractor, which I'm so grateful for. Really, I think it really saved my life and energetic wise and all that, because otherwise, I don't know what a doctor would do for me. Probably nothing but give me a neck brace. So, but looking back at that issue that happened with me and throughout my young life, I had, mono, I had things would come up. I'd have laryngitis, which these are some big things that people have in their life at different key moments. And so how has it shown it for you that you've had these issues that have been, that you've helped break through this process of, unfolding your throat chakra and letting it
Well,
shine?
my deepest compassion, a neck injury when you're a child. Yes, I had a back injury at the age of 8, and I'm older than you, and so I don't even think my parents knew the word chiropractor, let alone what they did or that sort of thing. And so I didn't go to the doctor, nothing. I was in pain, and it was the response was, well, it'll go away. It'll go away. That was all that was said. And so it never got dealt with, but I had multiple injuries later. It went on until I was in my early 30s, and I ended up with a pinched nerve in my neck. And that was excruciating. I was laid up in bed for 5 days. I couldn't do anything. All I could do was put ice on it. I did the muscle relaxants. I went to a chiropractor, and on it went. And so I had a tremendous amount of pain for about a year and a half, and really worked with the throat chakra. And I eventually discovered that really a lot of the problems originated in the root chakra, and then went up to the sacral, and went up to the solar plexus and the heart, and then really were visible in the throat chakra. And so it took me some time, and eventually I became completely pain free, and I never have neck pain anymore, ever. So that's a huge thing. And here I am speaking with you. I'm allowing myself to be seen and heard. I express myself 1,000 times better than I used to. And so it just gives me so much joy to help others on their journey. You know, whether they come to me with throat chakra issues or not, that plays a part to really help to empower people to be all that they are, and to really express that. You know, and it really boils down to, we're souls in a human body, and every single one of our souls came here with a mission. Every single one of us. And part of that is expression. It's why we have a voice. It's why we have a being. And even the expression of emotions, our beliefs, our thoughts, self-expression, creativity, all of that. So the throat chakra is so important, and energy so easily gets stuck there because it's narrow, and it serves such a large function in our energetic being on all levels, you know, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional.
Wow. And so as you're saying that, I'm like wanting to clear my throat a little bit here. So let's talk a little bit about your journey, because as you're saying, which I totally believe, and we say this all the time on this podcast, is that, yeah, we're souls, we're unique, we have amazing journeys. And I always like to find out a little bit background about the journey you took to get to where you're at. So would you care to share any key moments of your beautiful journey of unfoldment to where you're at now, Cheryl?
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, Teresa, when you said I had laryngitis, well, I was in my 20s. I got married young, a month before I turned 19, and and we bought a house when I was 18. Then we got married, and then we started having children. I was pregnant with our first child when I was 21 years old, so very young. And I didn't know I was marrying an abusive alcoholic. No idea. Couldn't see it. Was just really, really young. Um, and absolutely, there were problems that I always thought I could get beyond. And I started getting laryngitis early in that marriage. And I would just it was chronic. I would have laryngitis at least once a year, at least. And all I thought back then was, you know, it's a virus, it's an illness, it's, you know, and I had to get through it. So by the time I was 32, I left my husband. I saw and he was more emotionally abusive, mentally abusive. He, you know, there wasn't physical violence, but it did become physical. And one day he punched me in the chest a number of times and gave me welts. And that was the beginning of the end. I thought, we are not having this. There's no way. And so I got the help I needed and left him. And yet my life, you know, I felt relief every day waking up. For years, I just felt relief. Okay, I don't have him anymore. And my life started to improve, and yet there were still problems. And it was back in the time when depression became an in thing to be diagnosed. And a friend of mine was diagnosed with depression, and she showed me this brochure, and I went through this list of symptoms of depression. I was like, oh my God, I think I'm depressed. And I went to the doctor, and he said, yes, you're severely depressed. And he put me on antidepressants. And I was on them for a while. And I remember I got headaches, and I felt a little better, but not tremendously so. And my second youngest brother passed, and he died early. And the most bizarre thing happened that was hard for me to really comprehend and integrate. But a friend of mine and I were sitting on the beach one day, and she was studying kinesiology. So she's doing kinesiology on me while we're waiting. We're going to pick oysters. We're waiting for the tide to go out. So she's doing all this, and she's clearing all this, and she's doing muscle testing and clearing all this stuff. And I could suddenly feel my deceased brother's presence. I had never experienced anything like that before. And it was like a ball of light above me that I could sense. And I could just feel his love. And I knew his spirit was with us. Never heard of anything like this. And I was super happy. And finally she says, well, there's something around your brother. And she didn't even know. I don't think she knew I had a deceased brother. We weren't super close friends. We were getting to know each other since his passing. And for the first time in her life, she channeled him. She channeled a person. So we're both blown away by this. And his message to me was to start meditating, to start meditating. Long and the short of it, I did. And it was through meditation, not mindfulness. No, it was, I learned more, and it was a lot of self-study. I did courses. I did many programs, became an energy healer, etc. And it was through the meditation very soon I got the guidance within a few months to go off the antidepressants. And I talked to my doctor, and he said, oh, you can't. You're going to be on this for the rest of your life. Think of it like blood pressure medication. So this is almost 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. A bit like blood pressure medication. It's just going to help you stay well. And I'm like, no, I'm done. And I was able to go off and stay off the medication. And so I'm still, and now I see that depression is an energetic, it's depress. We learn to hold in our emotions at a very young age, and we don't express. There's so much in the expression that needs to happen. We are designed that way as human beings. We have thoughts, and more importantly, we feel emotions. The heart is designed to feel, and we are designed to express our emotions. And my conditioning was, no, you can't feel this. You certainly can't express anger. You can't express certain things. You're going to be punished. And, many, many things that sort of era brought with not only myself, but other people, and absolutely not everybody. And so that was the beginning of great change, of my journey of healing and empowerment. It all began just healing, and then really moved to an empowerment. And so there's nothing more fulfilling in my life than to help others do the same. Just like all coaches, just like all spiritual leaders, we just want to help others grow, evolve, step into their greatness.
100% agree with you. And what a beautiful gift your brother gave you. I mean, to come down and to, share that message with you, and that took you on a different journey. And boy, that just gives me chills. That's a beautiful story, Cheryl.
Thank you. Yes, it was incredible. And it was days later, I was very much questioning it. Like, did that really happen? My mind and the self-doubt started to kick in. And thank goodness I spoke with my sister-in-law at the time, who had read about this sort of thing. And she said, no, apparently when this sort of thing happens, this is the next phase, is you start to doubt it. And so I was so relieved that I was able to accept that as it's really God or the universe helping me, right? It was guidance. Yes. guidance 100%.
Definitely. And I love the fact that you got off medication. So years ago, I worked for a psychiatrist for quite a few years, and the number of people that are medicated is unreal. And at that moment when I was in that job, I was not into spirituality and didn't understand the bigger picture of the soul and what we are made up of energetically. And of course, now I look back and go, wow, I mean, so many people are affected by the energy and being sensitive. And now it's not to, disregard or the fact that there are some people that do have problems in their head, but or problems in their life that they may need to go down that road. But there's so many other options too of exploring the bigger picture of your body, and even with depression and bipolar. And I just worked with a colleague recently who was telling me that before she found the spiritual work that we do together, she said, I thought I was schizophrenic. I was hearing voices. I thought I might need to go to a place, and she did not. And so she recognized that what she's getting, she's very sensitive. She's very open. At that moment, she was getting insights from spirit, from, God, the universe, whatever was coming in for her, but she thought she was crazy. And so there's just so many people out there that are affected by medications. And like you said, being told, I will be on this the rest of my life. Wow. What I know now, it absolutely floors me. It's a good floor, but it does floor me that there are probably still people out there that are in that realm of not understanding a bigger spiritual picture for their body and that body, mind, spirit.
I think you're absolutely right. And thank goodness your client discovered this, like really believed in that, because there are so many people locked up in institutions diagnosed with schizophrenia when they are everything you just said. They're very sensitive. They're very open. And are highly evolved souls. And yet somehow maybe it's part of their journey. I absolutely don't claim to have all the answers, but I was thinking of that the other day, how often, people have moments of awakening, or they're just born with these gifts, or it's this or that. And how we're not, these ways of being are not so recognized. Our cultures try and condition us to fit into a box. And thank goodness humanity is changing. I personally have so much hope for humanity. I think everything that's going on in the world, COVID, even politics, everything is serving us. And now, and everything with Putin and Russia and the Ukraine is serving us. How can we look at this? How can we do our part and contribute to help humanity evolve, even if it's in the smallest way? If everybody does what they can, it helps. And how can we grow from this? There's, even 9/11, what a disaster that was. And I being Canadian at the time, I was living in Vancouver. I was living in Victoria when it happened, but 10 years later, I went to New York, to the site, to the memorial and everything. My daughter and I went there, and I was able to witness, really, yes, the trauma, beyond trauma. It's just absolute devastation. And yet the beauty and the connection that came out of that. There's always the bad that goes with the good, and there's always the good that goes with the bad. And it's hard for us to really grab onto that. And so, like you said, what a blessing that I was depressed, right? That I was depressed, yes. That my brother came, and that I got onto this path that's intense. It's absolutely intense, but I now embrace intense. And it's through our own evolution and our willingness to help others go through the tough work to reap the benefits that we all evolve.
And I'm with you, Cheryl, too. Like, I completely have hope for humanity. I know we're going to make it one way or the other. However the end result looks like for all of our lives, we're going to make it. We're souls that are eternal, that we don't ever die. So if we have that in our little back pocket, we're good, right? Because that, for myself, that was a savior. I'm like, oh, I'm a soul. I've been here before. I'm here now. I'll be here probably again, or if not, I'll be somewhere else in the universe. But that really gives me a lot of hope. And I totally agree with you. The fact that whatever we go through, for humanity or for, the shift and changes, the good, the bad, the ugly, all everything between, there is light at the end of each tunnel. Like out of all this COVID, I'm getting chills. I say this, Cheryl, because I just see that and get a sense of all of the COVID stuff. It's waking people up. And now they may have to have gone through for some things or put some things in their body or experience things that for their own, evolution. But people are going to wake up to different realities for themselves because, as we know, there's different levels of consciousness and different awarenesses. So each person is having their own unique journey. But the fact that, there's light at the end of every tunnel. It's just, how do you, I guess, the perspective, and how do you as a person see the outcome? I guess that's a big thing, right, Cheryl? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember when COVID first hit, it was actually when I launched my first book. It was right before I had finished the manuscript. It was going to we were about to do the book launch and everything, and COVID hit, and so everyone wasn't in lockdown yet, but we were to that. So it was pretty scary, and I flew to Washington D.C. To move to celebrate this and move into that, and and then it hit, and I wanted to do some speaking. I had all these plans, couldn't do it in the physical, and yet I knew this is serving us. This is an opportunity for us all to grow. This is an opportunity for humanity to evolve. So as difficult as it was, and I'm still a human being, and I remember going grocery shopping when there was no toilet paper, and we're putting on plastic. I remember putting on gloves, these orange gloves. We got all these because we thought maybe it would, spread through touch, and wearing the mask and going to the grocery store, not having toilet paper, and just trying to breathe into, as hard as this is, as traumatic as it is, somehow it's an opportunity. And so and I would meditate on it, and what can we do, and that sort of thing. So that helped me through. It really helped me through. And yet, not being a Pollyanna, that a lot of people died. So many people died. And so much happened, and so many people. I got COVID. Did you get COVID?
Yeah, I got Omicron, definitely. Yeah.
I got COVID, and it really, even to me, there was such a division living in the United States as a Canadian. I just, even through the election, I could see the Republicans and the Democrats, and I keep going back to the United States was named the United States because we're united, and we were the furthest thing from it in so many ways. And how can the United States become the United States? How can we all be united? And I so deeply believe in unity consciousness, and how can we come together? And so often in growth, the pendulum has to swing to the extremes before we can back to center and be in that place. And so to show us this, I think this also showed us how out of alignment, how out of unity we are, that we have these extremes, and in so many ways, and how can we come together? And I've witnessed a lot of beauty and joy and unity out of this, that we all, number one, appreciate our physical time together so much. Who isn't celebrating physical time together as we move out of this, and being united together?
Right. Yeah, I love being united. It's like you said, it is what we are about, United States. And what comes to me as you're saying that is that I think the United States needed some throat chakra cleansing and some shining the throat chakra. And that's the interesting part I want to ask about, because depending upon what you believe or what side you're on, many people really felt stifled, felt they couldn't speak their truth. Have you noticed that in clients come out in the last year and a half, 2 years?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the throat chakra is not just about speaking our truth. It's about taking in the truth of others. It's about opening ourselves up. We can always change a belief within us. So many of us think when we have a particular belief, we have to hold on to that forever. I'll give you an example. I did a healing session for a client of mine yesterday, and she's having a relationship problem in a very close friendship. And I remember saying that a friend of mine, around 30 years ago, said to me that I was complaining about a friend. And she said, if you remember, all your friends are allowed to have 3 faults. Whenever their fault shows up, you can just let that go. And what I realized this morning is that that's a bunch of BS. I lived by that for almost 30 years. So, and what it reminded me of, I have one friend who for years, we've been friends for years and years and years, and she's just not reliable. Can't count on her. Was late most of the time and that sort of thing. And so I would just think to myself, well, she's allowed to have this fault. All right. And so I would live with it. But every time it happened, I felt, unimportant, or I didn't matter as much, those sorts of things. And what would have been ideal for me years ago would be to say, you know what, I feel like, and we'd had conversations around it, but no big conversation. And in the last year, we had the conversation. I finally thought, I don't want to keep living with this fault. I don't do that to others. I try and honor commitments on time and that sort of thing. And so I did have the conversation with her, and I said, this is how I feel whenever this happens. And so I've spent all these years trying to process this, and it keeps coming up. And she understood. She understood. It completely changed the friendship. She is totally reliable now, all the time. And if she can't make something, she just lets me know. Like, it just shifted. And so with this client bringing this up around her own friendship, I thought, oh, that belief is no longer true for me. Because everything, like COVID, is an opportunity to help us grow. So I could look at, what is it in me that has a friend that's not reliable? What is it in me that doesn't speak my truth? Those were my throat chakra issues. And what is it in me that isn't willing to look at, why am I feeling this way, and take responsibility for it, and then to grow, and to ask for something different and have my needs met. So at the time, something in me didn't feel worthy enough to have my needs met, or, whatever it was. So that was a long time ago. And somehow, we managed through it. So beliefs. So if someone is, we can go into the politics, and I do not like talking politics, but, let's say red and blue. Someone's been in blue for years and years and years. For us all to try and be open to hear others, to just take it in without knowing, to just take it in, not filtering, and just breathe it. And that we can see, oh, there's some truth in this. Just to open ourselves up, and that we can change our beliefs at any given point in time. And we can keep changing our beliefs, because that is actually part of how we evolve. We can go from the subconscious belief of I don't matter, not knowing that that's a subconscious belief, to having it come to the surface, to healing it, and becoming empowered and moving into, I matter a heck of a lot. I matter so much in this world. Right? So if we're open to changing our beliefs, we start to hear differently. It's opening the ears. The ears are part of the throat chakra. So if we have a block right there, no, I'm not even listening to you. Sometimes we do need to do that. I'm not listening to you. But to try and find nuggets in everything that we're listening to, that we can take in and absorb, like a fresh start. Every conversation, every time we listen to something. That helps our unity.
Without a doubt. And I guess what comes to me too is how there's so many people right now bringing spirituality, bringing this awareness in different variations, which we need all of it, to the masses. because that's what's going to help people go, okay, well, I need to work with Cheryl because she really emphasizes and works on the neck, the throat chakra, and the other chakras. I need to work with this person and that person. And that excites me too. And knowing that there's so many beautiful souls on the planet right now sharing spirituality in all kinds of ways, because everyone resonates differently with different people. So it's super exciting. So let's talk a little bit about your book, Heal Your Neck Issues and Let Your Throat Chakra Shine, the spiritual guide to moving forward pain-free. I'd love you to share a little bit about your book, Cheryl.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I spoke about my journey. And so it was really, uh, I had no idea that was the book I was going to write. I knew I needed to write a book. Was that never even came to me. And so I went through a process of really digging deep, and it became not what I wanted to write about, but what did humanity need from me? And it's really about God or the universe expressing itself through me in a very, very unique way. Are there other books on the chakras and even the throat chakra? Yes, it exists. So it took me over a month of really trying to open myself up to this. And then it just started to come through. And so the book itself, I wrote in 8 days. So I put together an outline and did all of that. And then what I did every single day for 8 days was I would meditate and I would open up to God or the universe moving through me to write this book. So I had my outline, and I would go and sit by this creek near our home, and I would just sit with my back to the flow of the water where it was coming, and I would imagine the water, it's just the energy, the water of love and light flowing through me and expressing itself in the chapters I was going to write on that day. And then I would go to my office. I'd go back home and go to my office, and I would sit down and I would set a timer, and I would have multiple cups of tea. Sometimes I would have a thermos with my herbal tea, and then I would sit down and I would close my eyes and I would just start writing, and I would just let this flow through, trying not to judge it, just writing, knowing that I'm going to have the editor and it's going to be edited and edited and edited, but just that trust in that happening. And what I experienced was it was such an amazing process. I mean, I was just really blown away, and it took me to a whole different level of being throughout that time. And then there was one chapter I wrote, and I ended up having a bit of a meltdown. I was like, I got triggered in that chapter, and I promised myself I would not rewrite anything. I would just allow this to flow through me. But it brought something up in me. And so here I was back doing my same old process, helping myself heal and become empowered. And then when I finished the entire manuscript, then I went back and I rewrote that chapter from a new place. And so it was in writing the book, it brought up my own throat chakra issues, because what happens is whenever we set out to do something great, and it's one of the greatest things I had ever done was write a book, like holy smokes, that was a big deal for me. Whatever stopped us from doing it before will come up. So my own throat chakra issue around writing about the throat chakra, the imposter syndrome and what are people going to think and who do you think you are? All that old stuff came up again. And I have to laugh now, but it was just so there. So I was able to clear that and then move into writing a book. And so the second book, the Client Magnet book, was a piece of cake. I didn't have any of that. Sure, some stuff sort of came up. It's really that throat chakra book. I have had so many people come to me and say, I just really resonated with everything you wrote in that book. It felt like you were writing the book to me. What can I do? How can I go to the next level? And I wanted to write it in a workbook format because I believe in our own practices, to really, we are all great beings. And so I love to empower people to become their own energy workers through meditation and through different practices that we can heal and become empowered. And it's it's just been the best thing to watch people grow and to really start to shine. People who could not speak to a group at all. I have watched them come out and are now leading groups and being the teacher they are, and and just people really being able to speak their truth and not holding back. It's just been so rewarding.
That is what a process you've been through. Because I'm working on a book right now, and it's called it's about soul quakes. And so my editor and my publisher were talking to me about how we do experience what we're going through. And Cheryl, I've had some soul quakes. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's very challenging. And so it's taken a while to get through it, but it is challenging. It was funny because when I was talking with my group of people that some authors that I work with, and we kind of bounced it, things off and on each other. And you were talking about, depending upon what your subject is of your book, as to what are you going to experience as you're going through this writing, like you mentioned with your throat chakra. But what a beautiful way that you created your book. Because I mean, it's not an easy process. And in 8 days to have really jotted it down and have really, worked with spirit in the way you did, that's beautiful, Cheryl. That's empowering, I have to say.
Thank you. I highly recommend it, Teresa.
Find the flow next to the river and go meditate. And oh my gosh, I just love it. Because really books are just channels. I mean, look back to Carl Sagan and other people who've written, I mean, they're all just channeled books of information that's coming through the divine in one way or another and makes it onto the pages. So what I just love that. I'm gonna have to remember that so much when I get to write in the next couple chapters, is finding a beautiful stream to sit by and flow with that energy.
Awesome. Awesome. And yeah, it's really, so much of the spiritual work is about getting out of our own way or getting out of source's way, so that, because really we are all channels, like you said, we all are. And so how do we experience that? And how do we open ourselves up to that?
Mhm. And you clearly have found that way. And I know we haven't really dived into it too much, but I want to just touch on your shamanism. So you've done a lot of work in embracing that aspect of spirituality and opening up. So can you share a little bit about that? And did you bring some of that into this book? Is that part of it also, or?
I did. I did. I was,
I had a feeling, Cheryl. Just a little
it's
inkling.
it's not too much. At one point, so my spiritual journey is pretty long and varied. And so I did intensely study and practice shamanism for I think 9 years. And then I joined a spiritual school, and they were very clear they wanted all of us to just do one thing, to focus on one thing. And I thought, okay, I gave up my drum that I had made myself. And interestingly enough, right when I was going to start this intensive program, one of the sinew, the leather thing holding, I made the drum in a spiritual ceremony. It broke, it snapped. And I was actually at a vision quest, supporting a vision quest for others who were out in the forest doing, they're on their own. And I was supporting that, and I wanted to drum and support that. So I was guided to burn the drum. So I burned my drum, and then I handed off my beater stick. But through shamanism, I really discovered merging and shape shifting, which I bring very much into my work. I don't use the word shape shifting too much, because for so many people it's just so out there. It's kind of hard. So I do use merging, and there is some of that in the book, and also about getting connected with our power animals. So power animals everything is God, everything is the universe. We really are all one. And so with power animals, it's all about understanding the qualities of another being, And that often what's happening is we are designed to develop certain qualities in ourselves. And so a power animal will come to us to help us develop those qualities. And one of the things that I moved away from in shamanism is leaving the body to do the work. Where I have developed heart centered shamanism so that we stay in the body, and so I bring a lot of that work into what I do. And in the book, there are two meditation practices. One is one of my favorites, but it's so intense and it's not for everybody. Snake meditation. And snake, as you know, I'm sure you know, is very much about transformation. It's about shedding our skin and having that beautiful, fresh skin that it's time. And you look at nature, it's in our natural world. The leaves, the leaves fall off the trees. We go through the seasons. There's a time to blossom and a time to shed. And we don't always honor that. And so it's becoming snake, merging with snake. And I mean, the ultimate would be shape shifting. That's a whole other story. But even merging with snake, that we can allow ourselves to shed that skin, and it can create a very fast transformation, one that people have been preparing for. And then it's a pivotal point. And then I also did a meditation on ostrich. And I have a painting of an ostrich over there. Ostrich is very much about the connection to the divine. You look at ostrich, you look at swan, and that long neck, and that makes me think of the throat chakra. Some people say giraffe. Absolutely, giraffe is more of an earth power animal, where swan really brings in the water. Ostrich to me is more air, because it's still a bird. It brings air and earth. So anyway, there is a meditation in there for people to get strongly in touch with the lower chakras. And what I love about ostrich, they can kill another animal with their feet and legs. And that's root chakra. The power that those creatures have is unbelievable. So to get in touch with the different qualities, that strength and power, and then this connection to the cosmos, this connection to the divine, that the head is so high up, and it really is about being in the world and not completely of the world, to have both. That's why we are a spirit in a human body. And I think ostrich represents that, and the beauty of the throat chakra, because it's also the chakra in between the upper chakras and the lower chakras.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Cheryl, because I feel that, well, shamanism to me is more of like coming back to the earth and the elements and how to work with all of that together. And some people understand about that and have explored it, but a lot of people haven't. And to me, it's just such a beautiful aspect of spirituality. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm glad it's in your book. So the listeners can get your book, and we'll talk a little bit about that, how to access you and your items. I know I'll have everything in the show notes, but would you like to share a little bit about Star of Divine Light Institute?
Oh my goodness, yes. I never ever planned on having a spiritual school. I was actually against it. And my husband said to me after I wrote my first book, he said, "You're going to end up starting a spiritual school." I said, "No way. Absolutely not. I will always just be Cheryl Stelte." And he said, "No, you will. You'll end up starting a spiritual school." And so I had been asked by one of my clients who did my throat chakra program. She said, "When are you going to teach what you do in the energy healing aspect of the work I do?" Which is big. The energy healing to me is huge. And I said, "I don't know." And other people had asked me, other people had kept asking. And she was one of the people who really transformed her throat chakra. And she knew she was a healer. She knew. And I thought, I just got the guidance. You have to do it now. You have to teach this. I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? So I did. I taught it. I call it Azarias energy healing, where you do energy healing online, and it brings shamanism into it. It brings even acupressure. It brings Herkaya healing. It brings sort of Reiki. I mean, I'm a Reiki master, but some of my clients say, well, this is Reiki on steroids. But I brought it all together and taught it. Right out of the gate, I had a group of 10 people. And so I taught it. And then at the end, I had one of my students, one of the practitioners, said, I need to belong to an institution. I need to belong to a school or some sort of organization. And I need you to create this. It's not enough that I just say, oh, it's Cheryl. She said, and I was like, wow. And she said, and I need a different name for this energy healing style. So I couldn't come up with a name. I was just trying to be open and allowing this to flow through me. And so it was, and I wanted it to be very clear. And so it was the intuitive online energy healing and empowerment practitioner program. Like, it was so long, way too long. And I tried to shorten it, IHEP, whatever. Anyway, and she said, I need a different name. I said, okay. So I meditated on it. And in less than 5 minutes, I got the name of the energy healing and I got the name of the school. And it's like, the Star of Divine Light Institute came just so quickly. And there was nothing else. And I was like, wow, that's so awesome. Okay, I'll do it.
I'm in. Here I am. That's
Yes.
beautiful, Cheryl. Thank you so much. And all that information will also be in the show notes so people can go and check out your offerings, what you have going on there, and sign up to work with you and your school and your institute. That would be awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. And one of the things, so if you go to my website, I do offer chakra readings. On the website, you have to pay $20. Like, really, a 1 hour chakra reading is $300. So a 20-minute chakra reading is valued at about $120. But I get so much out of doing chakra readings. So many people experience healing or guidance, or just the number one thing that people say when I do a chakra reading is, wow, you were so bang on.
Love it.
So it's really the universe flowing through me to reflect back to you what's really going on with you. So in the chakra readings, I'm able to see and feel where the energy is flowing well in your energetic system, your chakra system, and where the blocks are and what's going on. And every person is unique. I do not see the chakras in the lotus flowers with all the petals in those traditional colors. I see so much more. They're multifaceted. There's so many aspects. And if I haven't already, I'll make sure you have the link to a free chakra reading for your listeners, that they can access that if they would like.
Oh, that'd be lovely. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you so much for coming on today, Cheryl. This has been so much fun sharing your two beautiful books and you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Teresa. It is just such a joy to do this together with you. And I feel like, we are connected on the same journey, heading in the same direction. So thank you. It's truly an honor.